All right, what up, guys? Welcome to New Jersey HorrorCon. How you guys doing tonight? Awesome, awesome. We have some amazing indie filmmakers here for you guys, so let's not waste any time. Let's get them up right on stage. We have Todd Staruch, Tom Ryan, Brandon E. Brooks, Anthony Catanese, Sara Casey, and Alton Simpson. Make some noise. So before we get started, just give you guys a little background on everyone so you know what their work experience is like. Todd Staruch and Tom Ryan are the team behind Theater of Terror. Todd also produced the short film Dutch and acted in the indie short Wrapped. And Tom is also the writer, director, and producer of Day 9 and The Faces. Alton Simpson is the producer, director, and editor of For the Love of Music, as well as one of the film's featured performers, the director of the stop-motion short Marvel vs. DC, and the creator of the screenplay turned comic book Vampires of New Jersey. Coming around, we have Anthony Catanese and Sara Casey, the filmmaking and editing duo behind Nightfall Pictures' High Death, DIY's Sodomaniac, and the horror comedy Teenage Bloodsucking Bimbos. Nice. Last but certainly not least, Brandon E. Brooks is the writer-director of the horror thriller Sickness with Brian O'Halloran and wrestling star Katarina Lee Waters, the producer of the indie horror film The Quiet Ones with Courtney Gaines and Tony Todd, and the producer of the upcoming No Man's Ridge with Near Dark writer Eric Red. So these are some very accomplished filmmakers. So let's get right down to it. And we'll start, my questions are for everybody. So I guess we'll start with Todd and pass it down. What movies and filmmakers influenced you guys growing up?
Wow. So I've been just a film buff in general since I'm about 8, but horror is my first love. So I started off with the Universal classics, you know, nice. And then a lot of British horror. So for me, you know, everybody says the typical ones, you know, Wes Craven, but I like a lot of Italian horror, Dario Argento, Lucio Fulci.
Amazing.
You know, and those guys. So influencers are varied, and also just a lot of indie influences. You know, I like a lot of the up and coming guys, Ty West, you know, James
nice.
Wan, you know, all these guys that are sort of redefining horror these days.
Awesome, very cool. Tom?
Yeah, many of the same directors and films that influenced a lot of horror fans growing up in the 70s and 80s. Everything from The Omen to Carrie to Friday the 13th to just I wasn't only impressed with those films and taken by those. I was really into a lot of Ray Harryhausen and stop motion and Clash of the Titans and Jason and the Argonauts. I loved stuff like that. I loved a lot of bizarre 70s horror. So I've gotten a lot of influences. I was always a big film fan, and not just horror, but I do love the horror genre. But I've gotten influences from everything, and yeah, I mean, I could name 100 directors that everybody else loves and films that everybody else loves. But yeah, I think I feel good that I grew up in that like kind of golden age era where you really got horror really transitioned to a place where I think it just evolved, and we got a lot of great films now that you're seeing parts 16 and 17 and remakes and reboots to that stuff. So those are my influences.
Oh, sure, awesome. Alton?
My influences are pretty much the same as you guys. I was born in the 60s and grew up in the 70s and 80s. So it was a combination of really freaky, scary movies and then also really ridiculous, funny movies. Like Friday the 13th, Part 3 in 3D.
Oh, yeah.
It got very kitschy, you know, after a while, but I like both sides of it.
That's the best ending of any Friday movie. Friday 3 has the most disturbing ending, easily.
Great
Sarah?
date movie.
Oh, definitely.
Back in the 80s.
The Netflix
Guaranteed
and, the
that whoever
Netflix
you
and
whisked
kill.
would jump in your lap, so that was good.
Good
But,
stuff.
you know, I like the classics like Rosemary's Baby and Halloween and, you know, and then, you know, today with the way Jordan Peele's kind of mixing social commentary in with the actual film, it's a good time.
Oh,
it's
definitely.
a good time to do horror movies.
Definitely. Sarah?
I'm going to switch it up, actually. So I'm actually, I make horror movies and I love horror, but I'm actually a bigger fan of comedy. So things like The State, like a really big fan of The State and the timing in editing and pacing things. So comedies like that. I also like growing up would watch a lot of Mystery Science Theater, so bad movies as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
And
Oh.
we definitely have a lot of homages to bad movies in our films.
I swear you can learn just as much from watching bad movies as you can from watching good ones.
Yes. Sure.
And not
Agreed.
just like don't do that, but there's so much. The world needs bad movies just as much as good ones.
Agreed.
Something has to air on sci-fi at 3 a.m. I'm telling you.
That's
They
right.
kind
know?
of fill that
And it's
slot.
probably pretty cool.
Sharktopus.
Sharktopus.
So yeah, specifics, I don't know. Just like generally, like those are the genres that kind of feed what I do and
Well,
how I do things.
Anybody who's been fed by the state is
Yes.
the greatest sketch comedy show ever. So yeah, I'm definitely with you on that one. Anthony?
I guess like starting out in film, the first movie was Star Wars, obviously. Like I was like, oh wow, movies are amazing. You know what I mean? And then kind of that. And then, but I never thought you can make Star Wars. You know what I mean? And then I saw Toxic Avenger, and I was like, holy shit, there's movies out there like this, which really got me into USA Up All Night, which really,
Oh yeah.
which
Gilbert
totally,
Gottfried hosting.
if you see, people are like, what are your influences? I'm like, USA Up All Night. They're like, any movie they played. And then it was really, and I was like, okay, you can still make these movies, but you still need. It was weird, and then I saw Clerks, and I was like, holy shit, I can fucking make a movie. You know what I mean? You got people talking, because my movies are really dialogue. Woody Allen's like one of my favorite directors, too, so I like a lot of dialogue-driven stuff. So once I saw that, I was like, oh, you can really make stuff like that. And the other big influence that, even now that I look up to, are like the shot-on-video guys, who just people who just fucking go out there and make a movie. They don't care if they have the money, they don't care. Like, I know a lot of people wait, like, oh, I don't have enough money to do this, I don't have enough money to do that, or the time. Like, just go out there and make it. Those guys really go out there, and you really learn a lot from them, because you can watch The Thing and be like, well, this is how they did it, The Thing, you know, and you're like, you can't do that. But you can watch a shot-on-video movie and be like, wow, how did they pull that off? You know what I mean? And like really dissect and learn from them, I think, more than watching how Stan Winston does something, you know? Especially when you're starting out, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And of course, Evil Dead, yeah, that was one of my biggest movies.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And Brandon?
So I was instantly enthralled by the horror genre from the first time I ever saw as a child, the shower scene in Psycho.
Yes.
So for me, I mean, that just stuck in my imagination. I mean, as a young child, I mean, I was literally probably sneaking, watching it like behind my uncle's back or whatever. And again, it really just stuck with me, and I was able to watch the movie because I could handle it as a child. So then I just was so impressed by it that then I watched The Birds and then Vertigo, and Hitchcock became kind of the first, I think, even though I didn't become a filmmaker till my early 20s, that was the first influence that I didn't even know was, like many, many years before. And then the 78 Halloween was such an exercise on less is more, and the score and just the overall mood of it, just that again enticed me. And that when I write and when I even think of shot selections, I always think of like what would Carpenter do or what would Hitchcock do in some of those amazing shots throughout a lot of his films.
Those are good golden rules to stick to, for sure. So Tony touched on this a little bit, but was there for each of you a particular like straw that broke the camel's back and made each of you say like, I'm going to make a movie? Was there a movie that you saw or just something that happened in your life or anything that made you go from thinking about it and talking about it to now I'm doing it? Like, and if you could, each touch on that briefly. Todd?
Well, I always fantasized about being in movies, but I have a pretty standard like background. Went to college, had a career, in IT, and that kind of pays my bills. But until about 10 years ago, I didn't really even understand that there was such a full, vibrant indie film scene until I started talking to indie filmmakers, and then I said, wait, you guys actually make your own movies? How do I get involved with that? So then I just fell in with a group of filmmakers and started helping them out, and then just fell into it. And, it's just such a fascinating experience. And one thing I learned, and I try to impart to people who talk to me about it, is whether you're on a $150 million Hollywood movie or a no-budget indie film, the process is very much the same. So you're making a movie, and you have to have lighting and camera and acting and work. So just learning about all of that has been an amazing experience. At 50 years old, I never dreamt that I would be involved in actually making motion pictures. And then here we are.
That's amazing. And Tom?
So I'm going to try to make a long story short.
Okay.
When I was a kid, we always loved making movies with VHS cameras in the backyard. There was a movie that came out in the 80s, a made-for-TV movie called Alligator, about an alligator in the sewers. We were really influenced by that. We got a toy alligator. We got some G.I. Joe figures, and we just kind of shot that stuff. So years went on. I went to college. I majored in the media arts for a couple of years. The college I went to was becoming a university. The tuition just grew out of my control. They kept raising the tuition to become a university for whatever reason. They needed more money, so I dropped out of college and I just started working full-time and forgot about the movie business. Some years later, I saw a friend of mine posting on social media about a web series called Dead Road that was directed by a friend of mine called named Corrado Gadaletta. I reached out to him, asked him if he needed help on the project. I came out, I did some special effects, I did some acting, and I quickly learned about the digital age and what you could do at home now, that you could shoot on a digital camera, that you could edit at home. And I had been cutting tape in college, basically, and so we're doing reel-to-reel stuff, and now I said, wow, I could actually afford to make a film and didn't have to buy film and didn't have to buy a camera, and I could get this little digital camera. And so I made my first short film, Day 9. I intended to just show it to a handful of people in my living room. And a friend of mine suggested the Macabre Fair Film Festival in Long Island. I submitted it there. We got accepted. We wound up winning a Audience Choice Best Short Film. And from there, it encouraged me to reimagine the dream again and get back to it. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. And Alton?
With me, it was probably when not when I saw Clerks, but when I heard about Clerks. Because that was it was before this ridiculous internet, social media explosion. So a lot of things were word of mouth, and some guy in Jersey was shooting the film on his parents' credit cards, and he was almost running out of money, and he's shooting with his friends, and he's shooting in some 7-Eleven or some Wawa somewhere. And then, he took it to Sundance and got a deal, and the rest is history.
Man, it's almost
the
like a
funniest
fairy
thing
tale.
is, I know Kevin's shooting Jay and Silent Bob right now, and I'm on his page like a bazillion other people. But I made a point of thanking him a couple of weeks ago because my comic, which is a script that I turned into a comic with a Marvel artist, it sold out in his Jay and Silent Bob's comic book store up in Red Bank.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Right. But Kevin's so cool. He really wants independent, whatever you do, to be able to get your stuff out there. So I approached the guys, and they were like, oh, man, we want to put your comic in. What else do you do? And, then I contacted them a couple weeks ago, and they were like, oh, dude, it's sold out. We need more. Ship some more. So awesome. Back to film. The idea that you could do it yourself. You never feel that from big Hollywood productions. But Todd was right. The actual process has to start pretty much the same. Yeah. In your mind and in your heart, and then on on paper. Yeah. Because I'm old school, writing with pen and paper.
Absolutely.
Because one day all this shit's going to break down, and you're going to have to actually, all that Walking Dead stuff and all that apocalyptic stuff you see.
Y2K20, folks, watch out. This is the year.
When it hits, that pen and paper is going to come in handy. So.
Good stuff. Sarah?
I actually second that on the Kevin Smith thing.
Well, that would be a third, yeah.
Being able to see a guy, like a regular guy from Jersey, just make it happen and like blow up like that, it makes it like attainable to folks like us. Yeah.
He films like, not to cut in, but he films like Flash episodes, and I don't even know about it. Like, you look around, it's like the guy's working. Yeah. And then since he had that scare last year, now it's really, something is his life.
Yeah.
It's very inspiring.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it definitely makes us appreciate all his work a lot more.
I'd also like to second, too, it might have started when I was like a toddler. My uncle put on Alligator.
Yes.
Thinking that he'd scare the crap out of me, and I ended up laughing hysterically. And I guess ever since then, I've been making wacky horror movies ever since.
Very cool. And then, Tony, anything other than Clerks?
Yeah, like that whole school, like El Mariachi.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Rodriguez, Sam Raimi again. Like those guys really, and like John Waters, people, sure. And Ed Wood too. Surprisingly, was like whenever I learned about all these people and just what they did. The first time I actually said I want to make movies was after I saw Ed Wood.
Really?
I was like, this is what I want to do.
You mean the movie Ed Wood, right?
The movie Ed Wood.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know about Ed Wood before
Right.
the movie, and I was like, holy shit, this is what I want. This is so cool. You get your friends together, you run around, you make movies, and any movie set. I quote Ed Wood about 1,000 times. The movie, yeah. It's not about the little details. It's about the big picture. Every movie. That's the movie. I don't know why. I just saw it. I was like, holy shit, this is it. You know, a movie about a cross-dressing alcoholic who never made it in life inspired me. So
Soldier.
yeah. He wasn't worried about dying. He was just worried about getting captured and finding out he had women's panties on under his uniform.
This is the one they're going to remember us
This
by.
is the one they're going to remember us
What's wrong
for.
with having on women's panties?
Well, this was, but that, anybody who goes out and does it themselves, kind of.
Brandon?
Yeah, I actually moved into the filmmaking a little bit different. I started as an actor, and I was just trying to do that. Like, again, we all think sometimes that we want to see ourselves do some of the things we grew up watching, whether action or horror or whatever. And I did that for quite a few years, but I got frustrated with the market, and there wasn't as many opportunities. I was getting sent out for things that really weren't interesting to me. Like, oh, go be in that rap video or something like that. And I was like, no, I want to blow up stuff, or I want to kill somebody, or be in the type of stuff that I like we talked about last Boy Scout. Things that were cool, or
Hell
whatever.
yeah.
So for me, so then I just started writing, and then that just that became such a craft that almost took me over for a while, to where I had to even just stop, even auditioning and doing all of that, and I kind of just had to just enthrall myself into writing, and then that segued into learning the directing and the producing part of it, because we're at an event, and this is an event not very much unlike some of the first Fango shows that a buddy of mine took me to probably 20 years ago or so, and he opened me up to a new world, to where you can walk up to a table and there's Tony Todd, or there's Courtney Gaines, or any of these actors, and just strike up a conversation. And if they see some kind of potential in you, and you're able to respect them with some kind of pay that, it's worth their time, then you're able to make a movie with these amazing genre actors. And you're really not going to have that with Dwayne Johnson or Tom Cruise or some of those. There's not going to be very many events where you just walk up and say, hey, Vin Diesel, I got this script. Hey, can you read it? Because it's just not going to work that way. So yeah, it's possible. It's possible, but yeah, so again, it's these events really opened the door, because it made it possible to not just, I started out small, but then I turned it into kind of, let's keep up in the ante a little bit and grab this cool. And I also would think outside the box and try to grab genre actors that I thought were cool. We cast in one of my films I produced, this actor named Bill Allen, who was in a movie called Rad that I grew up in the 80s.
Oh, man.
And I was just a big Crew Jones fan, as was my business partner, and just having him on set, and having those stories, and even though the film had nothing to do with BMX racing or anything like that, that was cool to us. Even though a lot of people around us probably were like, why are these guys geeking out? But for me, that was Crew freaking Jones. So.
Oh, hell yes. I could talk for hours and hours just about the soundtrack alone. John Farnham is
Absolutely.
an unsung hero.
Thunder in your heart.
Oh, man. Get ready to break the ice. So, although you guys have all worked with some very accomplished, very talented actors, I'm guessing that starting out, you all had to do what everyone does and rope your friends in and get in my movies and stuff. So, what was any secrets you guys picked up to getting great performances from first-time actors? Whoever, Todd or whoever wants to jump in. Yeah, Alton?
Well, if they're going to screw up the script anyway, which they usually do because they're not actors.
Right, yeah.
You know.
If you asked me to build a birdhouse, I'd screw it up. I'm
That's
not a
what I
carpenter.
mean.
Yeah.
Let them present your line the way they would say it. So if I'm doing takes and takes and takes with somebody and they're saying, they're always saying it wrong, I say, well, how would you say it? So it's comfortable, because what you want is that natural thing to come through, straight through, like I'm talking to you guys now, like I know you. You want that to come through. So, your words, if you wrote the script, you love those words and they're brilliant and you're Shakespeare. But you got to be realistic in the indie world. Unless you have, somebody famous who does it on a regular basis, you're not going to get that type of response. But you can get a great performance out of a a regular person as an actor if their personality comes through.
Wow, very well put. Anybody else want to weigh in on that one?
If I know I'm going to be using friends, I'll either write it for them because I know how well they can act. I'm like, I know he can't do this. Or, you know, I'll base it towards somebody. Or I'll let them read the script and say, which of these characters speaks to you? And then they'll say, I like this one. I'll be like, okay. Because they're going to come off more natural because they probably feel like
some connection
to it. The other thing I can tell you is just don't, like with reactions and things, like just don't tell them what they're going to act in. A lot of times, even to this day, I call people, like, you want to be in a movie? Yeah, okay, be here in 10 minutes. They're like, okay, I don't know, just come here. And then next thing you know, we're like beating them up and throwing blood on them. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Sometimes they come and they have like beautiful girls crawling all over them. But it's like you get like a natural reaction out of them so that, yeah, it comes off natural.
Very cool, very cool.
Yeah, for me, I had the luxury of being in acting class at West Barron in Atlantic City. So I was in class with some really talented people who were learning the craft. So for me, like when I started writing around that time, I already had in mind, like, okay, she's amazing, he's got some potential. And so it was a little easier for me to kind of write some parts in my first couple scripts that fit some of the talent in the class.
Oh, wow, very cool.
Yeah, when I'm sorry, Tom.
No, go.
My first short film, I was the star of it, so I had done some acting already, so that was easy. There were some co-stars in it that I kind of, they didn't have a lot of lines in it. Just if you see the plot, you'll understand why. But so to them, I kind of kept the characters within their range, knowing who was going to play what. But in my first feature film, I used people that I had met at a film festival. Some were cosplayers and stuff, but so I basically kind of wrote the characters to their strengths, and when directing, I kind of just pick up on the actors' tendencies and kind of see where they have confidence and where they don't, and we'll work around that in a way. We are true to the dialogue, but I always try to pay attention to how an actor will express themselves in that dialogue and whether or not I think it's coming across as believable. And if it's not, we'll let it evolve into a way where they're selling me on the part. So that's how I'll try to work with somebody that might not be a seasoned actor.
Right on. Very well put.
What I've observed on movie sets, just from a producer standpoint, is it depends on the tone that the director wants to set. So even if you don't have people who are overly experienced actors, if you set the tone like, hey, we're actually making a movie here, we're not goofing around, you can kind of get people to take it seriously and put a lot more effort into it. I like to bust this guy's chops, but one thing I have to give Tom credit is he really goes out of his way to make people feel comfortable on set, but by the same time give them clear direction on what he wants, So you don't have to have people that are, overly experienced actors. Now, don't get me wrong, if you just want to make a silly movie in your backyard with your friends, there's nothing wrong with that, and you can have a great time doing that and make a pretty cool movie. But if you're looking to make a serious film, you have to set that tone on set. And then you will find that people will start to take it seriously, and you can get more out of them than you probably imagine you could.
It's an amazing craft to bend people's wills like that. And then Sara, you're dealing with this footage a lot of times after it's been shot, so you're seeing things that no one even caught on set. And wonder what your insight is on the whole acting process.
This is true. I'm also on set a lot as well.
Wow.
So I'm a bizarro producer editor like that. I will say, especially with low budget films, sometimes the location becomes a character in and of itself.
Totally.
So if you're dealing with like an inexperienced actor and you're like in a dank, nasty basement somewhere doing a horror film, like that will already put that actor or actress in a mood that will transfer onto the screen as well. Or in the middle of nowhere in like the Pine Barrens or something like that. There's like that will just kind of like make you forget that this person like picked him up out of a bar or something off the street to, hey, come be in a movie, whatever.
Right on, right on. Well, I do want to give a chance for anyone in the audience that wants to ask questions, guys, or anything you're dying to know about the Indy film process. Because if not, I have plenty of questions good to go. So I know guys get shy. Well, all right.
We actually have some indie filmmakers in the audience here.
Oh, call them out.
And actors in the audience. But yeah, these guys, it's great. Thanks for coming and
Yes,
listening to
thank
us
you.
talk about the craft. But these guys have done great work too.
Oh, awesome. Well, we'll definitely have to have you guys on the panel next time. So another thing that fascinates me about the indie process, obviously working with smaller budgets in Hollywood. So when doing that, how do you manage to balance concessions? Like, you're not going to get everything you want on screen, but I'll take, maybe not, like the lenses that I want, or maybe not the big crew that I wanted, but I'm getting this scene. Or like, how do you guys manage to deal with that, the compromises that you have to make, and any challenges that you've had along the way?
Well, for me, it starts in the pre-production process. Once you break down your script and you kind of see like the day out of days, like what you need to do, I always, if I'm going to try to cast someone, I'll decide if it's going to be a non-union or a union thing, which is a major difference. It's another conversation for another day, but It's a big difference between one or the other. But for me, if it is going to be something that is union, if I want to get a name actor in the genre or whatever, I try to look through. I try to schedule. I always do a prelim schedule. Even if I do end up hiring a line producer, I always do my own prelim schedule because that helps me keep in order that specific actor. So if I'm going to bring that person in, I'm going to know if I need them for 2 days, it's going to be 2 consecutive days.
Right.
So then, because I've been on things before where people didn't think about that, and someone's shooting on Monday and then Thursday, and you have to have this actor that you brought in from LA or Canada or wherever, and then he's sitting around for 2 days doing nothing in the hotel that you're paying for, and eating, and you still got to feed him, and you still got to give him per diem, and those are things you have to think about in the beginning of the process, because if you get them in and get them out as quick as possible, then that saves on your budget, and it also helps you in the long run, because a lot more actors sometimes are willing to take a shot on an up-and-comer to come in for 2 or 3 days and do a cool little role that they may not have been even seen for. Like I remember approaching Courtney Gaines about a role, and he's known for Malachi and Children of the Corn and The Burbs and many other things.
So many things. Can't Buy Me Love, Back to
Can't
the
Buy Me
Future,
Love,
yeah.
and but we were presenting an alcoholic father. Abusive father, and it was a role that for him at the time he was like, look, I would love to take on that challenge of that type of a role. And that was, like I said, I always tell people to try to go, if you can, try to go to some of these actors with something a little bit different than they're known for, because Robert Englund might be a little more receptive to a role like in a low budget Taken than he is on playing like another version of Freddy Krueger or the Mangler. So.
Very cool. Let's jump in.
I was going to say, first of all, I forget the question. But,
It was how do you balance making concessions with small budgets?
Okay. Well, I come from, they say it's low budget. I come from no budget.
Right on.
Okay, so it's all based on how much money you got to spread around. If you have the money for name actors and you can get them, that's good. If you don't, you have to work with whatever you have. But make sure, and I think this is a problem for a lot of different people, make sure you have enough either, we'll say resources, which would be people, money, locations, whatever, to finish your project. Because a lot of people start things, with a big, hype, and they're all excited, and you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and then you don't even get as much in the can to finish the movie, to release it as you can. So think everything through all the way down the line, as best you can, on whatever budget you have. Because I believe you can shoot a movie on, we could shoot a movie now with our phones. Yeah. When I started, we didn't even have phones like we have now. The phone in my pocket is better than the first camera I bought when I shot my first movie that got into the Philadelphia Independent Film Festival 10 years ago.
Wow.
So you guys whatever you're doing, now is a good time to do it. You have a lot of opportunities. Whatever you can think of, you can shoot.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would just, my 2 cents is that it starts from writing. When I'm writing a script, I try to write within my boundaries. I already have an idea of what my budget for the film is going to be, if it's going to be self-funded or if I'm going to try to raise money. The concessions that I'll make is if there's something important to the story, a special effect, a scene, a location that I need, I'll focus on that on the budget. And if there's other stuff in there that I could avoid spending money on, I'll avoid spending money on there. But it really starts from the writing process. It carries into acting. It carries into locations. It really is a part of everything. I will make concessions if it doesn't affect the story. That's where I'll start. If it comes to actors, if I can, I mean, if I need the best actor and I have to pay a lot of money for that person and that's the must-have person, I'll try to do that. But if I realize that it'll save the film, a great example is our film that's showing tomorrow, Endangered. We had a pretty big name actor that we wanted to bring in to play a creature. And after looking at the budget numbers, we decided that because this person was going to wear a mask for the whole film, it really didn't matter who played the creature. We wanted to get Robert Mukes, and we'd met him at cons. He's a great guy, and he's big, and we needed a big man. And we wound up getting another actor. We lost an inch in height, but we got another actor who actually helped, is a special effects artist, and contributed his talents to the film. So it wound up saving us a ton of money. It wound up making our creature costume, and everything fell into place. So it's got to be part of the process from A to Z. That's why I'm not writing like space battle movies, because I just don't have that kind of money. So, but you're right within your limits, and that it'll save you a lot of time that way. But no concessions to actually delivering the story that you want to. You got to trim all around, that part that you really need to be seen. That's the main focus of your budget.
Well, totally.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It really starts with writing. I think, what do I have? Where haven't I filmed? Right. Who do I know? I'm like, oh, my friend has a coffee shop. Okay, coffee shop. I like to make a list. I have a barber shop. I have this. And usually I'll write. No, sometimes I'll put things in the script knowing it won't happen. Just like, this won't happen, fuck it. But I want to put it in there. And like, I'll give her the script, and I'll be like, yo, what'd you think? She's like, you motherfucker. We are not doing that. We can't do that.
Every time.
Every time. But the thing is, I'm like, okay, it won't happen, but we still work at it, and every single fucking time we've done it. And I walk away like, I can't believe we fucking pulled that off. We did a whole warehouse battle scene where people's assholes are getting ripped out, nuns are getting shoved up ass people. And we had 4 crews going. It was fucking crazy. And I just stopped and said, this was the biggest thing I said is not going to happen. And it happened. And I think when sometimes if you have things, like he said, he got the actor, but liked the movie so much, he was like, man, I'll make the costume. I'll do this. I'll do that. We had an actor who was like, loved everything. He's like, dude, I got biker friends. I got a guy who has a warehouse. I have this. I have that. So as much as it is think about it, at the same time, you never fucking know, especially you never know who you're going to meet.
I just want to say something real quick to piggyback kind of what Todd said from the last question is that you'll be surprised what people will do, and if they believe in you and they believe in the vision that you put forth, because I've seen it I've had 3 crews like I said at the same time when you had a location for one night and we had like tons of shots, and we're like, okay, you're gonna direct this scene, you're gonna second unit this one, and you just make things happen. When people feel involved, and you're giving people more credit, you're giving them more responsibility, you really see some people, some talent that steps up and really kind of gets really, and again, it's happened even on the financial level, it's happened. There's movies that I probably shouldn't even have started, but we were like, look, we have enough to get this off the ground. Let's just believe that we can do this. And then people see that and they kind of feel the vibe of kind of like, okay, these guys are for real. They're not just making a little YouTube video. And then people, all of a sudden, like some magical things have happened. Like it's tough, but I do believe in the power of like people, if you get around the right people that are talented, I think sometimes you'll be surprised who people will step up and really back you up, like Tony said.
Anyone else want to weigh in?
I can't really add anything. That these guys all said it really well, but I'll just echo really what they said. It's planning. We on our film, we had endless production meetings, and there were times where I'm like, Tom, if you call another fucking meeting, I'm going to beat the hell out of you. But it really all was worth it because we planned everything out to the dollar. And we had very little overruns, It's bound to happen, but a lot of people get themselves into a corner and don't know how to get out of it. And then, like you said, the word concession, I've watched too many filmmakers refuse to concede anything. Yeah. And then for me, just as an indie, being involved, even just as a fan, I hate seeing a project never get completed because a director refused to make any concessions. And now you've had actors and production assistants and a lot of people put in time and effort on a project that never sees the light of day. And I don't think that that's fair to them. Yeah. You know, so I watch Tom, you know, figure things out, negotiate, you know. This guy makes deals that, like, I don't know how he did it, like, for locations and stuff, where I'm like, wait, what did you have to do to get that? Because, or maybe I don't want to know.
You don't want to know.
Yeah, I'm sure. But yeah, you have to be willing to make concessions. Like Tom said, like, we knew what our limitations were. You know, we didn't have $100 million to make a movie. So we just had to figure out where we could cut and where we could get very creative.
Right on. Sarah?
Oh, I have a contribution. Because I see it on both sides of it. I can see concessions having to be made on the production side and the post side. And I find, honestly, that the best advice I can give, and it's really hard for an artist to hear this, especially a screenwriter or a director, is like, your script is not Bible. Like, you need to be able to kind of, like, I know, I'm sorry.
Spoken like a true editor.
You know, there's a script of Peter Guber saying the same thing about the '89 Batman.
If you can go into a project with that mindset, then sometimes the best things are born from it. Like, we've made concessions in probably every single thing we've done, and big ones. And
everyone does.
And to be quite honest, like, those big ones end up making it a better film than was in the script. Every time. I don't know if it's just like serendipity. I don't know what it is, but every time, like, somebody else will come up with an idea on set, or we'll just have to work with what we have.
Yeah. I think certainly sometimes when filmmakers and creative types are forced to kind of work into a smaller box than they're used to and play with some different rules, things get a little weird, but you get some creatively awesome stuff. Like, we have Back to the Future panel here tomorrow, and I always love the story that the original ending was them driving out to a nuclear test site in Nevada and then, like, putting the DeLorean, waiting for the bomb to go off. Doc's, like, miles away in a walkie-talkie. Like, think about how, like, unexciting that would be compared to the fantastic clock tower sequence, which they didn't have the money for the nuclear test site, so you got the best ending in, like, 80s movie history.
Exactly.
So one thing I've wanted to ask you guys about is in terms of promoting your movies. Do you guys cut your own trailers? Do you do your own posters? Do you have friends? Do you have people? Do you pay for that kind of stuff? Like, you know, anyone that's helped you out that you want to throw some credit to right now? Or, you know, whoever wants to jump in on this?
Luckily enough, I'm a graphic designer, so I do all of our posters. You can hire me if you want some illegal looking posters.
That's right.
And we cut our own trailers. And we've had people cut, he's not here. We've had, like, companies make trailers for us, and they weren't exactly, I was like, oh, I had a better trailer than that, and you charged me, you know. So I think sometimes it's better to have other people cut it because you're so close to it.
Right.
But, I do all my own art promotion and stuff like that.
Oh, very cool.
When we first started, we actually hired an amazing artist. His name's David Wilkinson. He's a South Jersey guy, and he delivered us like five different options that all were amazing, and we picked the best one we felt at the time, and we were going to negotiate with the distribution company to utilize that artwork once we got the deal. But you find out when you're dealing with distribution companies that they're going to a lot of times, like, want to do their own just for the purpose of not having to take on any royalties from artwork you may have gotten someone else to do. And the same with trailers. Like, that's we'll cut trailers or whatever. But again, a lot of times, like, if you do read up on indie films, the rule of thumb to many is that you shouldn't do it because you are, like you said, a little close to it. And sometimes you kind of see when you watch some of them that it is a little too long, or sometimes it shows a bit too much, or sometimes it's a bit amateurish to what the marketing strategy of a distribution company would want. But then sometimes, like Tony said, you cut something that's really badass, and then they deliver a poster or a trailer that's lackluster, but then again, you're kind of at the mercy of the man in this case, because if they're going to put your movie out wherever they're going to, then you kind of have to just deal with the good with the bad.
Let's see where to start. For me personally, when I started with film, I was a producer. And then you go look for a writer. And then you meet 100 different people who don't get what you want to do. So what I would recommend to people that are doing films, independent-wise, is learn every aspect it takes to make the movie. Over the time, I've been doing this since probably 2003. I've learned how to edit from, online courses. I started playing guitar when I was 12. I had lessons, so eventually I ended up scoring all my own films and doing soundtracks. Learn every aspect yourself. Now, if you have money, you can always pay people to do things. That's what Hollywood's all about. You can always pay people to build a set if you got $10 million. But if you don't, and you're indie, you got to be creative. But so you know how to finish a project personally, that gives you a sense of confidence. I pitched Columbia Pictures on my Vampire of New Jersey last year, and the one thing I was able to say to them was, you'll talk to a lot of people who write, or they film, or they do this, or they do that. I'm one of the few people that can write it, film it, hire a crew, edit it, score it, release it, have gotten it into a film festival, and has film streaming on Amazon Prime right now. And I taught myself how to encode my own films to get it on Amazon Prime. So you can depend on distributors and other people to try and interpret your work, but the greats that we all like Kubrick, and we'll throw in Tarantino and Kevin Smith, they put their heart and soul into that film, and they took it as far as they could take it. But the way things are today for you guys, like it wasn't even 10 years ago, you can do a lot to control the image of what you're doing. Right. So you get 100% of your vision out there, which is nice. Now, if somebody offers me $10 million to change my vision, I'll certainly take the money. I'm not a sucker. But in lieu of that, like even posters, I was using somebody for posters at the beginning, but I started shooting my own. I shot a documentary over in England, and I just got an idea for a vision while we were shooting the music documentary in the location of, they were moving cables around, and I had a vision of Atlas carrying the weight of the world, because these were all independent musicians who have day jobs, and they write their music, and they play clubs at night. So I filmed it right on this, took a picture right on the spot, and then I worked on creating the actual image.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
So, but you get the inspiration like that when you're working. So,
awesome.
Just know how to do everything all the way through. It'll help you, because even when you're paying other people, you want them to do a good job, and you want them to do what you want them to do, right? So,
you gotta be ready to wear every hat.
So Tom here does all of our graphic design for Theater of Terror and cuts the trailers and everything, but you said the word promotion, and for me, I think promoting your film is almost a bigger challenge than actually making the film, right? Because making the film, you kind of know the process, film, scoring, color grading, all that stuff is technical, and people know how to do it. Today, everybody is making a fucking movie. So you're competing for all that attention, whether it's through social media or whatever. Like, social media is just an endless ocean of images and thoughts and ideas. So you get we're constantly spamming people's feeds with our movie, right, to get attention, because there's really no other way to do it. You can sell your soul to a distribution company if you want to, and that may be a very valid road to go down. Every case is unique. But man, promoting is just such a challenge, whether it's coming to cons and just trying to sell DVDs to people walking by, or selling them online or whatever. God, that is almost more work than spent being on a 24-hour film shoot, because at least that's exciting, and you're having fun, and you're making a movie, and now you're like, how do we sell this fucking thing? You
probably learn some interesting, just people watching psychological things. Like, what does it take to get people to stop? Like, what is, what I mean? You probably learn a lot doing that too, I'm sure.
Yeah. We physically drag them over to our booth. Blur movie.
Someone's got to do it. You guys, anyone else wanted to weigh in on that?
Yeah, no, just like Todd said, I do all the art, but it kind of references back to what Alton said before about, it was all part of the process making films. I learned to edit, like you said, online video tutorials. Learned to do editing. Learned to do Photoshop. It was just easier. It was cheaper because of what my resources were. I've gotten better at it now, so it's almost becoming something that I enjoy doing. It is stressful when you're writing and directing and producing, and you're the location scout, and so it's a lot of work. But you know, I enjoy doing it. I've gotten a lot better at it. Our images have gotten a lot better. It's a really fun part of the process too, because I guess going into the movie I have all these ideas and it's easier for me to express them myself than to explain them to someone and then hope that they kind of return what I'm looking for. Yeah. But eventually, if we're making enough money and we get enough resources, I would definitely happily outsource that kind of that kind of work.
I got you.
One thing I just want to add is that it goes out to anybody is to, as much as you can, if you see something you like on social media, pay it forward by reposting or liking or following, because like you never know like who like may take. There's a lot of people who've come to me after the fact and said, "Oh, thanks a lot for reposting that." A lot more distribution companies saw it that were on your page, and then I've even gotten work from people who have come to me and said, "Oh man, all those years like you would support my films and repost my arrow in the head articles or whatever, and why don't you come produce this with me and help me promote it?" And I was just doing it just to support friends that made movies or interesting horror or any other genres that I thought were cool. But you never know. It takes 2 seconds to repost, and you can't imagine the amount of people, even friends, that don't repost or like things that you put out there. And I'm like, so I always just try to do that because again, it doesn't take any effort to do it, and you never know like who may come around to that Twitter thing you reposted or that Instagram or whatever it is, and it could really turn into something that could be good for your career.
Very cool, very cool. So, did you weigh on that, Sarah? You're good.
I think everybody kind of covered it.
Everybody kind of covered it. Okay.
I will say that having other folks kind of work on promotional media for a film you worked on is like a newer experience for me. So I do find it interesting seeing what they do with the footage, whether I like it or not. But
I do find it to be
it's a weird feeling, but yeah.
I find the whole thing, promotion, whether it's, posters, one-sheets, or trailers, whatever, it's an interesting, unique art form of its own. I'm going to sell this whole movie in 30 seconds or 90 seconds or one image or whatever, I remember a filmmaker friend of mine once said to me, whatever you're doing, you have to be able to sell it in one sentence to anyone who asks about it. And that's like, I'll never.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the elevator pitch. Yeah, see, that's something I'll never. I can do it for other movies, like, it's Walking Dead with aliens, it's Jason versus Carrie, it's this, versus that. And then, okay, I'll go watch that. But, oh, shit, if I'm going to ever get something like that for anything I'm working on.
With the posters, I always start, to go back to Ed Wood about how that is, I never write a movie before I have a poster and a name for the movie.
It's true.
I have to have, there's movie ideas I have, but I don't have a name for it, and I'm like, I will not write that script yet. Oh. And I always start this, and I do the poster so I can look at it, and I always make it my lock screen on my phone. To be like, this is, every time I look at my phone, like right now, I have my new movie that we're finishing up. And the day I made the poster, before I wrote the script, it's been on my lock screen to remind me that this is what has to be done and this is what you're doing in life.
It's like a vision you see before the rest, but it's there.
Right on.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it helps people too. Like if you have a poster, they get an idea of what you're going for.
We have an idea.
Right on. So we are almost out of time. So I do want to give you guys a chance to plug yourselves online, any upcoming projects, anything, anywhere fans can follow you online, connect with you. Where can we reach out, guys?
I'm not that hard to find. I'm a social media whore. I think everybody knows that. But you can find me under my real name, Todd Staruch, on Instagram or The Horror Nerd. And you can go to my website, horrornerd.net. Like I said, I'm really not that hard to find, and I'm very interactive online. I love talking about movies and stuff and projects that I'm working on, so feel free to reach out to me.
All right, awesome. Yeah, so Theater of Terror is on Facebook. We have a table here this weekend. We're down by the entrance. We're selling our Blu-rays, our DVDs. We have some music CDs, posters, lobby cards, all that good stuff. Awesome. You can also find us at theaterofterror.net. and that's theater spelled Theatre.
We're
And,
fancy.
Yeah. And on YouTube at, oh God, Tom R. I don't remember my name. Tom R666, I think, is my YouTube name. But yeah.
Very cool. Alton?
Alton Simpson, 3hpro.com or 3heads Productions. I actually wanted to make a point that over the time I've been shooting independent film, I've met a lot of people with a lot of great content. And recently I've been looking at creating a Roku channel that we can all stream our stuff from.
That's a great
So
idea.
I wanted to make that announcement
Awesome,
today.
yeah. Wow, very
because
cool.
You create something, you love it, and then you put it online. Like I have my movies on Amazon Prime, and I've gotten over 20,000 streams, but I don't have any money to market, and my friends are tired of me telling them to watch it.
Yeah.
And literally, because I'm just, a one-guy shop or two people or whatever, I don't know why those people streamed it. You make a poster to attract people. They streamed it because they liked it. But nobody actually complained yet. I'm sure they will. But I think all of us are creating a lot of cool content, and I feel good that people enjoyed my stuff. And I think other people should have that feeling too. So I'll be working on that actual Roku channel over the next year.
Wow, that's amazing. We'll definitely look forward to that.
Contact me and let's get your stuff to fans.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this is me contacting you.
Nice.
So you can catch us. Please, thanks. So you can catch us. We have a YouTube channel, DIY.
Yeah, you just go to DIY.com.
Yeah, DIY.com. You can reach our social media, things like that. Yes,
Yeah,
the
word Y.
Correct. We have a table here as well. It's right by the film festival behind Father Evil. You can get some merch and some DVDs there. We also have a new podcast that we do with a friend of ours, Raymond Strife, where we talk about current movies, how they can be better. It's called What They Should Have Done.
Which is an amazing podcast.
Yeah, you can follow that on Stitcher, and I just remember Stitcher. There's a bunch of them. Yeah, Anchor FM. There's a bunch of them.
Every podcasty place.
Yeah, same thing, DIY.com. It's the word Y. And you can get our movie Sodomaniac. You can get that anywhere DVDs are available, but you should buy that.
You should watch that movie.
You should.
Really should.
You might be
You
able to
should buy
get
it
It's
here
exactly
from
what it
us
sounds like.
to support us for $10. Yeah, you can go and pre-order High Death right now on Amazon. That comes out in June. Teenage Bloodsucking Bimbos, I believe, is coming out in September. They changed the name. It's to Girls Just Want to Have Blood. And then also keep a lookout. We have a new movie coming out probably early, that we're filming right now, early 2000, what year is it? 19? 2020.
Wow.
It's been a long, I'm sorry, it's been a long week.
Brandon E. Brooks on Facebook. There's also I also have a company page, Saint Sinner Entertainment. Also, Wild Eye Releasing, I believe, is one of the sponsors of the NJ HorrorCon. They released a film of ours, a psychological thriller called A Man Possessed.
Nice.
So there may be copies at their table. Oh, they're not here. Okay, then there won't be copies at their table. Okay, but yeah, it's on Amazon, it's on it's Walmart, FYE, it's out there. So that was directed by Mel J. Figueroa. I produced it, and also the Sickness film that was mentioned earlier with Brian O'Halloran and Katarina Lee Waters. That'll be out. Hopefully, the plan is around Halloween time.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, all right, guys, that concludes the panel. Give these guys a round of applause for doing such a great job.